Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
Folks, this month we're headed to the town of Bedrock to celebrate our favorite modern Stone Age family, the Flintstones. Join us as we follow the Flintstones to the movies and witness their prehistoric evolution through time. A journey full of spy thrills, crossovers, weddings, a lot of heart, and marriage counseling. So, park yourself in the drive-in and order some oversized ribs as we start our Flintstones Film Fest. Tonight's feature presentation is The Flintstones, 1994. All right. Dragon, I need to dive right into this. This, honest to God, might be one of the biggest rushes of nostalgia that I've ever had covering anything on this podcast.
Oh, I figured on that one.
I'm not gonna say this is a great movie because it's not. You know, it's a very, very good movie, a very good adaptation. As far as a screenplay and everything goes, it's not perfect. It needs some work. But Dragon, holy mother of God! I mean, there's just two things that I just need to point out about this movie that just absolutely hold up like time, like no time has passed at all. It's like it's just as impressive as it was back in 1994. Number one is pretty obvious. It's the cast. I mean, this is honest to God, like top to bottom, one of the most perfectly cast, adaptations of a cartoon. I mean, it's like I feel like calling it a perfectly cast adaptation of a cartoon is like almost giving it a discredit because I feel like Dragon, like literally everyone here, even Rosie O'Donnell, who we get to, it's like they just completely embody their roles. It's super impressive. And number two, I mean, we're gonna go gaga over this. Like, I'm sure it's one of the main reasons this movie stuck with you too. The production design is absolutely incredible.
It's hard to beat, that's for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is one of those movies that I really have not revisited probably in the last 20 years or more. But I did watch all the time as a kid. I didn't catch it in theaters, but I certainly had a VHS copy that was well worn. And yeah, it's just one of those viewing experiences where it's like literally Dragon. I'm not even kidding. Like every line, every beat of music, every gag just had me rushing back. Like, oh God, it was such a nostalgia trip. I don't know. I'm really excited to break this one down. I'm very, very happy that this one held up so much.
All right, so for me, easily one of the go-to cartoon adaptations. For me too,
I would say it's the gold standard.
Sure. Yeah, for me it was a well-worn VHS, not necessarily tape, but a taping. As in, this is back during the days when HBO was much.
I had some of those as a kid, sir. Let's see, Lion King, or not Lion King, 101 Dalmatians, Jungle Book. Those were the big two that I can think of. But yeah, I know what you're talking about with that.
Yeah, this was back, if I recall, like during the HBO years, back when HBO was really HBO, not just like, now it's Max and everything. Now it's streamed like it's all easy. No, HBO used to be an event, kids. When it aired, you VHS, you had the VHS
Larry
tape in
David
there.
would like a word with you, Dragon.
Sure.
What do you mean we're not premium content? Am I not premium enough for you? All right. Anyways.
Oh, if I recall, Curb was still in that boom though, Tiki. It was towards the tail end of that boom. That's what I'm talking about. Back when HBO can earn those letters, man.
Oh, so now you're saying the new season's not as good as the old seasons. All right, I'm gonna stop with my Larry David impression because it's terrible. But
very painful, yes.
I know. Anyways.
Anyway,
Z&K Channel series has one of the best live action cartoon movies, and I mean, ZK, I totally agree. I mean, I'm hard pressed to think of any that come close to this one.
So that's what I'm saying. So you had back in the day, you had those movies that would come on HBO, and you tape them so you can rewatch them. And this one was rewatched a lot. I mean, for me, along with like just to name like another cartoon adaptation, you had like the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie, which also features John Goodman.
I have a lot of nostalgia for that movie doesn't come close to touching this one.
No, of course. I mean, no argument there. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, for the record, it was like one of like the few. Like you had like the Road to El Dorado. You had
Okay, the Road to El Dorado is better than this.
Of
So.
course, I'm just saying in terms of this was like
kind of like, yeah.
This was like the HBO lineup of like the movies you built into
right.
like kind of customizing your own collection almost. The VHS tape you weren't lucky enough to have. So anyway, this was a big deal. You know, you're adapting.
Wouldn't it be funny if someone did record that, but a random episode of Curb just got onto the tape somehow?
Yeah, Tiki, it would be funny. Yeah.
So it's like you're watching the Flintstones and then Curb comes on, and
Yeah.
as a kid you're just like, what is this? Why is this bald man so angry?
What does he have against the Cobb salad?
Right.
Anyway, so if I can get back to my point.
Yes.
Yeah, so this was a big deal. You know, you're adapting the first animated sitcom. Debatably the most famous animated sitcom, second to possibly The Simpsons. You know, in terms of like the iconic animated family sitcom.
It's so much better than The Simpsons, but yeah.
So personally, I have a great fondness and nostalgia for this film. I think truly it's underrated. I think what happened with the original Flintstones movie is that all the really good qualities the movie did legitimately nail down. There's a lot of good qualities to this film. Unfortunately, I felt over time they got lumped in and overshadowed by being confused for the prequel film that followed this.
I'm still excited to get to that one, but I have no doubt in my mind it's not going to hold up as well.
And that's what I'm saying. I just feel people
Yeah.
like they're thinking of the last live action Flintstones thing they saw, and they're thinking, "Oh yeah, the Flintstones, that one." Like, no, there was one before it.
Not that one.
There was one before, and I know it's not, but it's a prequel. No, it doesn't matter. No, the original, the one from
Rock
94.
Vegas, I'm still really looking forward to like the production design stuff from Rock Vegas, but man, that cast is gonna sting after watching this cast.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot there. For me, like there are three very special things that this movie got right. I think kind of stands above and beyond. But I think they kind of check the right marks of what you want in a Flintstones movie, where again, aesthetically better than it has any right to be. When you hear, oh, they're making a Flintstones movie, you do not expect it to look this good production-wise. Like, oh my God, they made a real thing. It's amazing. Of course, the spot-on casting, which we're very simpatico on. And then I think for me, as I've kind of established through two of our entries already, for me, Fred, Flintstones with pathos and layers, which I love.
Yeah, this one's got it in spades for sure.
That's what I'm saying. This one has it tremendously. So I think that's kind of the mark of the good Flintstone movies. They have like the best kind of pathos and layers applied to it, which is kind of a rare quality. Anyway, so ultimately, Tiki, I think this one was so close to being good, but it was held back by the 90s studio thinking of the time, and that and too many writers, which I think ultimately it watered the good things down in places.
Are we in agreement that the villain plot is probably the weakest element of the movie?
Well, if I was able to finish my sentiment, then yes, I would have agreed with you.
Sorry.
Yes, so it's watering things down, and obviously, as we've been kind of building up, the embezzling crime plot, I don't think was necessarily the best call in this film. Yeah, it's
because when I think Flintstones, oh yeah, I think embezzlement.
Like, what's next? When kids are thinking Star Wars, it's going to be like tax tariffs and Senate meetings. So
no, I mean we'll get into it, but like on some level, I do kind of respect this movie for basically like literally all the drama just comes out of just Fred and Barney having to adult. You know what I mean? It's adulting the movie.
Sure. And honestly, T, I think at the end of the day, in addition, like again, just watering down the good stuff and just adding like embezzlement plots and all that sort of stuff, I think it's kind of the curse of the director. The director who did this is Brian Levant, if I'm saying that last name right. I think I always want to think it's like Levidant or something, but no, Brian Levant. His movies, here's the thing. Brian Levant's kind of a weird guy, in my opinion. I think he seems like a nice guy, don't get me wrong. But it's like this weird curse that's kind of followed him through everything, where like after Beethoven, it was kind of the curse started, like he was kind of cursed after his first.
And I mean, we've already like Beethoven is a very like that is probably like on the top tier of like stupid 90s family dog comedies.
Exactly. It's the Godfather of the stupid Family Dog movie.
Yeah,
Unequivocally.
yeah.
So as I'm saying, I think Levant, he always with his films, I think he sets out with the best of intentions. He really has good intentions with these, but then what happens is I think the curse is he falls into that studio model and formula that gets fingerprints on his unspoiled film. And it just gets all spotty in places, and some people like, oh man, look at how much the studio manhandled this one. Oh god,
Mhm.
look how horribly mangled it is.
Oh Jesus.
So at the end of the day, this one infinitely better than the prequel, my opinion. It's a lot of fun, and it comes from a pure place, which I think is something really special the movie has in its corner that no one ever talks about. But thankfully, we're here to do that.
All right. Z&K channel says Jeff Garland could make a good Fred, and yeah, I agree. I'd like to see that. I think
right.
as of now he might be a little bit too old, but I don't know. I think he's got the voice for it at least.
Well, if they ever wanted to do like an old man Flintstone sort of,
Oh my god, old man Flintstone. Oh, I can
Yeah.
see it.
Right? I mean, we've done we've done Father of the Bride with the Flintstones. Let's do grumpy old Flintstones.
And I will say that that South Park time jump thing that they're doing is looking more and more intriguing. So,
All right, so let me hit you with some background on this.
okay.
Okay, so you have Joel Silver, a producer extraordinaire in Hollywood, the guy behind, he's produced many things, the most iconic of which being, the Lethal Weapon and the Die Hard franchises. So this guy, his name's been on really big films. So he bought the movie rights, I believe, in '85 for adapting the Flintstones into live action, doing a Flintstones movie. And he actually tapped, because of his Lethal Weapon connections, he had Richard Donner tap to direct
Oh,
for the
can you
longest time.
imagine?
I know, that's the thing. And I mean, Donner was going to be the guy for the longest time, but what happened is there was just this terrible development phase that just kind of scared him off. Like a lot of bad ideas that just kind of scared Donner off. They were either like too saccharinely sweet, or like, hey, let's do Grapes of Wrath with the Flintstones. Like, really? Is that what we're doing? No, I don't think so.
I mean, I think the challenge with the Flintstones is that it's such a basic concept that you really do have to kind of, make a stretch for whatever sort of drama you're going to put into it.
Certainly. So, anyway, so the '90s rolls around. At this point in time, Spielberg, he's getting into the animation industry with Amblin, of course, some of the wonderful Amblin animated stuff that we love. He's getting into kind of the family friendly kind of vein with with kind of taking the iconic properties. So, with Amblin in his corner, Spielberg, he buys the rights to the movie. He buys it from Joel Silver, and no joke, again, serendipity, Tiki, because we covered this movie a while back. So when he was working on the movie Always, the
Oh my
lost,
God.
the lost gem that is Always. I'm not joking
Yes.
here. This is the story. I mean, this is the confirmed story
Always
from
is
John.
the hidden gem in the Steven Spielberg filmography, folks.
This is the confirmed. This is like the story's been confirmed by John Goodman, so this did happen. So
Oh my God.
when they were doing Always, basically almost on a whim, it seems. It seems like almost on a whim, like, hey, Spielberg's doing this movie, and they had
Was
this
Always like
realization.
his immediate pre-Jurassic Park Schindler's List movie?
I believe so. I believe
Okay.
Always was either like firm, like it was before Jurassic Park. I forget if it was '89 or like '90, but it was like right around that time. Anyway, yeah, it was like the in between or after Raiders, I believe. So I mean, after Last Crusade, if I recall.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he's doing Always, and pretty much almost on a whim, it feels like he does all this for this very reason. Like it almost feels like he bought the rights to the movie because of this incident that happened on Always, where he almost jokingly says he basically trapped John Goodman into playing Fred Flintstone at the table read for Always. He says, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, I just want to point out this man will be playing Fred Flintstone in the live action movie.
Oh my God.
And what's John Goodman gonna do? What's he gonna say? So he kind of got
Dabba don't.
That's a thing. He was very trepidatious because he's a big guy in Hollywood. And he was like, oh man, I don't want to be like typecast as like as the cartoony.
Oh, everyone wanted him to be live action Homer Simpson for a spell.
See that,
The Simpsons themselves even made a joke about that.
I mean, before that, the studio, like over that development period, they had eyed people like John Candy and honestly some decent picks. Like you had John Candy, you had Jim Belushi, and you had like Dan Aykroyd. But obviously,
I feel
none
like
of them.
Goodman has the heart.
I know that's the thing.
Really separated him.
Goodman is a perfect. Here's the thing: Spielberg, folks. he ain't no dummy. Spielberg knows how to make a good movie. He knows how to find the right people for said movies. And
Breaking news, Dragon.
yeah, I know, right? I mean, we got to spread the word on this. People need to know. They need to be informed. But that's the thing, John Goodman easily. While again he was trepidatious, he did have a good time on the movie, and he was, again he was utterly the only way you're going to make a movie that's going to have the grit, that's going to have like what it takes to actually possibly succeed as a live action Flintstones movie, which it's going to be John Goodman. He's perfect for it. So anyway,
Is this your first John Goodman exposure?
well, it's I gotta check the.
Gotta be for me.
Well, let's see. It was either. Here's the thing. There's one that could possibly predate. There was the Borrowers. I don't know if the Borrowers came before this or not. That would be the only thing that could, because there's the Emperor's New Groove came after that, so it'd have to be either the Borrowers or this.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, maybe a dash of Roseanne, but let's be honest, it's mostly going to be the Flintstones. So anyway, so now they're looking for a director. So Brian Levant, this guy got a start in sitcoms. So again, very appropriate. He adapted kind of an animated sitcom. He had worked on Happy Days, Mork and Mindy. He's gotten around. He's worked on pretty much all the classics and like a little bit parts here and there. So he does Beethoven, which again afterwards the curse kind of gets into effect. He makes these big family friendly movies that are very financially successful, but get really bad reviews.
Did he make my favorite Martian?
No, that wasn't. I don't believe. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know why I randomly threw that one out, but it just seems like the type of movie he would do.
It does. It does. That's the thing. It kind of carves out a style that you could apply. I don't think he did that, but I'm not 100% sure. It feels like it though. Right. Anyway, so he loved the Flintstones. He collected the Flintstones majorly, which won Spielberg over. As in this guy, he's a huge fan of the Flintstones, so maybe it brings like an enthusiasm. He could do it. And then Levant made his big mistake here. He assembled a kind of a sitcom writers lineup, which this movie already had like a litany of writers in the development phase. So he brings on like pretty much other writers from Happy Days, Night Court, Family Ties. Bare minimum 8 writers, Tiki, and there were more. Bare minimum 8 writers.
Yeah, that sounds ill-advised.
So to me, that was the crippling mistake that he made, in my opinion. That's where it all kind of went south there. I think,
and so that's why the dramatic tension of this movie feels like it's coming from a million different places.
That would be the reason, sir. Yes. So. Of course, we kind of loaded this already. The movie had a very practical focus on the effects side of things, very practical effect heavy production. They had the Jim Henson Creature Shop working on this. They had a very Herculean task. They had to create 30 puppets in 12 weeks, which again I think shows. I mean, the Dino Bird, very impressive. This is ILM post Jurassic Park, by the way. This is after Jurassic Park. It is.
And this might be the first big blockbuster movie featuring dinosaurs that came out after Jurassic Park.
Yep. And one last thing. So they banned. They had to ban glass from the set because everyone was barefoot.
Oh my god.
They did not want anyone severely. Already, like Elizabeth Perkins got her foot stabbed. Sorry, not Elizabeth Perkins. Elizabeth Taylor. Got her foot stepped on during the production. It was like a whole thing. So it's already like you got to be real careful on the set of the Flintstones. Like, oh god, no one drop anything. No thumbtacks either. Anyway.
I know a thing or two about stepping on thumbtacks.
Right. And again, the movie critically not so great, but again financially big success, which then leads to a sequel, or more accurately, a prequel, which we'll talk about perhaps some other time.
All right.
So should we just start with the production design? Or
I think that's a good place to start because we can just pretty much geek out over it.
Tiki is just so faithful and just additionally practical. It's there. It just feels so real. It's when world building is the whole gimmick of the Flintstones, short of like the talking appliances. I mean, when the world building of that world is pretty much your whole gimmick, it's so key to get it right. Because otherwise, like the whole thing's gonna crumble. Like, oh, that looks so fake and Hollywoody.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly some moments of CG in there that are like, oh, okay, I can tell that's CG. But I mean, overall, just the sets, the dinosaurs look freaking great. Like, for 1994 visual effects.
And that's what I'm saying, though, T. I think the limitations actually assisted in this case, where again, like the limitations make it look almost a little kind of puppeted, which kind of fits into how they practically did the effect. So I think even though some of the CG may not be super impressive, I think it jives well on the whole.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, like any good Flintstones property, you got to have a ton of puns.
Oh yeah.
You know what my favorite piece of the set design from these movies is, and it carries over into Rock Vegas as well?
What is it?
I love the clams
Ah, yes, the clams. I mean,
for the
it's really.
money.
Oh yeah, yeah, that is great. Yes, that definitely
Yeah.
is going to carry over into the next one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. I don't know. It's just like very aesthetically pleasing. But yeah, I mean, shit, man. Just like, just the whole thing. I mean, we could keep going. Just the
I
whole
mean,
thing.
let's talk about the set design for a second, man. I
Well, yeah,
mean,
I
of
was gonna
course
get into that. So yeah, go ahead.
yes, of course, the Flintstones house, very, very important. Again, very kind of a one level sort of deal. But I mean, I think let me tell you the most impressive one that really kind of got me on the rewatch. I kind of forgot about how they did this. There's this really clever trick in how they didn't adapt it verbatim, but they kind of had a really great slant on it where let's do the bowling alley in a way we've never seen before that makes a lot of practical sense for for the Stone Age where we have Fred and Barney are going bowling with their fellow lodge brothers, the Buffaloes. And when we emerge on the bowling alley, you see there is no roof on the bowling alley. We have the exterior, and it's nighttime. So when you basically just kind of go over the top of it, and I think that's such a great idea for the Stones. Like, yeah, they don't need roofs; they're cavemen. It's just going to be
Right, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's just such a really clever thing of like, yeah, there are limitations at this time. You have a big space, you're going to need a big roof, and maybe they don't have big roofs back then. I don't know.
Sure.
Unless you're a place of
Um,
business, you don't necessarily need that.
and then that kind of brings me into. I mean, we can double back to the production design for sure, but another thing I really love about this movie is I feel like it's got a ton of Flintstones homages in it without just straight up being like Flintstones member berries.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
So we got the
again,
twinkle toes, we got the da 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 shopping or charge it. I mean,
yeah, charge
charge it. We've got, of course, the classic. I mean, let's talk about how lovingly recreated the intro and outro are, because that is just oh
yeah.
my god, it just pops, man. It's right out of the damn screen.
So easily, Tiki. It feels like the studio they had a few. It feels like they had a few notes when they should have probably had more in the story department. But it seems like there are like a few mandated notes, and the mandated notes to me seems to be, to its credit, we have to adapt the opening and closing as like a very primary like okay we have to do this okay no movie unless you recreate the opening and closing because it's the best part of the series.
Yes. You know what? Unfortunately, I feel kind of is a result of that, though.
What?
Like at the end, when the credits roll in the movie theater, it's like, okay, we literally just watched a job about job security, or watched a movie about job security. It's the
Yeah,
Flintstones job security movie. All right.
right.
Like I don't know, that kind of like just loops back around to like the plot of this movie. Just it does not feel like a movie plot. You know
Well,
what I mean?
here's the issue I have with it, Tiki. There is I love the recreation, but there's a plot hole within the
Okay.
recreation, unfortunately. So this to me was not a great call. In that okay, great call
The
in that
whole
we're gonna
movie within a movie thing.
well, no. Here's where it breaks down for me. So
Okay.
again, like we should have just opened with the opening of the show, which would have been, as adapting the opening, which would put everyone in a good mood, would have started us off great. But the problem is we do the build up to introduce Fred Flintstone live action, which who needs that? Just let the intro literally be your introduction, where we have like, hey, you're coming for the Flintstones movie, and hey, the embezzlement plot starts off the movie, and
Yeah.
we need a fall guy. We need a patsy cut to Fred Flintstone in the opening. And then, see, here's the problem. Not only just it's starting off on the wrong foot there, like we
It
don't
kind
need
of
the
already
embezzlement
like
plot.
puts you on edge.
Well, it's two things, Sticky. One, it's that we don't need the embezzlement plot, but here's the plot hole element of it, though. It's the fact of hey, they're going to see the movie even though the movie's already started.
Okay, that drives me crazy. That does
See,
drive
that's
me
what I'm saying,
crazy.
and it just all of and Tiki, that's
Yeah.
we could have
The
easily
Muppets
gotten,
movie, this is not Dragon.
and it's just
As
so
far as
close
that
to,
framing device
and I
goes.
thought it was so close to being something really clever, where if they
Uh-huh,
just cut
uh-huh.
that stupid, like the embezzlement thing, like that's the problem. That's the progressive problem throughout the whole movie. If
The
we got rid
embezzlement
of the,
plot just literally kind of like eats its way into the heart of the movie, and it's kind of annoying.
I know, and that's the thing is the movie is so great in so many other aspects, but that
Yeah,
stupid
yeah.
embezzlement plot, it like compromises all the great footing that we have with our twinkle toes.
Footing.
Yep. So so yeah, so obviously that's just really irritating.
All right. Well, I think Act One is probably the best act of the movie just because it's got the least amount of that shit going on.
Yeah, so let me talk about I think the let's talk about the casting and the chemistry with the Fred and
Sure.
Barney. So easily the biggest strength of the film. The characters just they've come to life in living, breathing flesh and blood, which is always the impossibility when you're adapting animated properties into live action. Here
Uh-huh.
we did it so well. John Goodman, again, he feared the role, but he did so great
What
in
I
it.
love about this is like I feel like visually it's not like perfect, like the scale of Fred and Barney, it's like, but just as far as just the performance goes, it's absolutely just completely on point.
Yeah, I mean, there's such an authenticity to it, and how they're just playing him so earnestly, and how they would act.
So I love the adoption plot that starts off this movie. I think it's a really, really sweet little gesture from Fred. I love that the movie starts off with an argument between Fred and Wilma that that evolves into like, oh, Fred Flintstone, that's the most generous thing I've ever heard anyone do.
Yes,
And
so
so I like that it's like, okay, we do get the marriage arguments, but it's like it kind of goes into like showing what a good guy Fred is.
right. So so that's the thing, Tiki, is just the element that lifts the movie is Fred giving Barney the money to adopt the son. Because
Definitely.
one adds a layer of Fred, presenting his friend the gift of fatherhood, which is helping Barney out of a bind. Fred, as we've established, not exactly the philanthropic type. So this is a big deal that he's gonna, he's tight with a buck. Mr. Skinflint, someone call him when financing a wedding. This is a big deal. So already this is kind of a big event. Two, there's an instant likability and charm of Fred Flintstone that's represented here, where he has all bluster, but he has like a genuine soft side. And as you tee it up, the scene with Wilma telling her about the gesture after trying to hide it, with the whole Pegasaurus garbage disposal gag, which in itself is
I
just really
love
funny.
that. I love that garbage disposal. By the way, I love how it comes back in the
I
third
know.
act.
I love it too.
Anyways, we'll get there.
But Tiki, what I'm saying is that with that Wilma Flintstone argument that we then kind of deflate, I think that's something we rarely have ever seen in the Flintstones, and the fact that we do it here, and just in a moment we establish that you establish why you stick around, like why Wilma sticks around with Fred despite all these arguments. She loves him because the man's got a huge heart.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And then three, and this just kind of relates back to the plot here, why this is which is the biggest strength of the film with the adoption plot is that three, it's a great plot point. It's the reason for it necessitates for a
The
change.
Bam Bam origin story, man.
Yes, the Bam Bam origin story, but also it necessitates and gives a great reason for these sitcom shenanigans that follow. We have an actual reason for why we go into the sitcom plot. It's not just like, okay, well, we need something. Well, no, because this happened, Barney is paying back Fred's kindness with this whole sitcom switch
Uh-huh.
of the test scores.
And I want to make it clear, I do really like how earnest Barney is to want to pay him back. I
Yeah,
love that speech in the bowling alley.
yeah,
Um, I do like the idea of him switching the test scores. I don't know. I feel like where the movie loses steam is when it starts to like become like not just Fred and Barney, but like Fred screwing over the whole quarry.
yeah. Well,
Does that
here's
make
the
sense? Like the more large scale that plot gets, the less personal it feels.
Well, here's what bothers me about it, Tiki. What bothers me is the fact that it was like an engineered plot. If it just happened, I think I'd be more accepting of it. Just the fact that it was like, okay, Fred, this. Think about this. Okay, so I think the kryptonite in the test switch plot, because I do like it pretty much for the same reasons, Tiki. Because again, where it's coming from. The issue is the fact that, hey, so Cliff's looking for a fall guy. He's looking
Oh,
for a
I'm so glad
hapless.
you're bringing this up because this drove me crazy.
So Cliff's looking for a hapless patsy here, as in he would be
Yes.
looking for the dumbest guy in the quarry. One
Yes.
could assume, and yet he has the test here, and he's going with the smartest guy. So Tiki, the fact that it was just like this engineered plot that literally we start the movie with like he's looking for the dumbest guy in the quarry. He's like, really? You've deflated any sense of like imagine this, Tiki. Imagine, I think the only way this could have possibly been saved is it would be a more interesting route to go if Fred learned, if we, the audience, did not know this and Fred was deflated learning that, hey, this Cliff, the new trendsetter in the company, has been taking me under his wing and making me into a big shot, which Fred has just kind of been kind of wrapped up in. But then he finds out, oh no, Cliff has been embezzling the whole time. I've been screwing over my friends. I feel awful.
Uh-huh.
I just think that would have played a lot better than oh god, mustache twirler at 1 o'clock. You know, he's been playing him the whole time, and the plan doesn't even make a lot of sense for how it works.
Right, right.
So I mean, I think that's what kind of really kind of hurts that. I mean, this it does. That's the thing. I don't mind a Fred climbing up the corporate ladder story, and that being a result of what Barney does. I don't mind that.
No, I hear you though. It literally makes no sense. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, like you're looking for the patsy, and yet clearly from Barney's switcheroo, it's like, with Barney switching the test, he becomes he becomes the lowest scoring test taker. It makes no sense.
Yes, and there's no way to win at that point because okay, so he's going to use the guy who scored lowest on the test. Well, if you do
But
that, then you're going to.
you would think by his logic he would go for Barney as the person that scored the lowest
And the
before
reason
he
they
took
don't
the
do
test.
that, and the reason they don't do that is like, okay, well, what exactly? You're wondering why the heck make it a test in the first place at that point. You know, it's like it's just gonna like undo like the gesture on Barney's part if he just switched it and he ends up getting the promotion anyway. So it's a train wreck
Right.
of a plot point if you really think about it. But
It
again,
is. It is. Yeah.
the sentiment and connection to everything is key though, and that's what's wonderful about it. It's frustrating.
All
Honestly, if
right.
they just cut that line, I think it would have played just. I wouldn't have fixed it, but it would have improved it. I was like,
Do we
just don't
talk about
know.
how little Mr. Slate is in the movie, but how good he is when he does show up?
See, I'm not crazy about that Mr. Slade observation. All
No,
of a
you're
sudden.
not. No, you're not. I am definitely on your this movie, especially Dragon. I love that Mr. Slate in this movie. He's barely in it, right? He's only got like a couple scenes. But
Really,
every
two
time he's
scenes.
there, he's just like, what's become of my company? Why are we laying off all these men?
I tell you, I love Mr. Slade at the end with like kind of an attaboy Clarence moment where he says,
Totally.
"It is like that's the best executive I ever had."
Yeah, yeah.
It's like you got the pat
And
on the back from
visually,
this.
he might honestly visually be the closest resemblance to the cartoon.
I don't know. I mean, John
Like
Goodman
with
is
those
literally.
thick glasses and everything.
I don't know. John Goodman though, man, it's pretty. It's pretty off the page.
Oh.
I don't know. So yeah,
I feel like John Goodman has more of an embodiment. He's just like, I don't know. He's just a little bit too tall for Fred.
I mean, in comparison to Barney, though,
Sure.
let's Fred's, I don't
Look,
know.
I don't want to argue semantics. I'm just
Sure,
saying, like Slate might be the most off the page.
he is very off the page for sure. I
Yeah.
think he conveyed warmth in a different way than usual, but the warmth was conveyed nonetheless. Just like
Uh-huh.
he gave Fred praise, which he never does.
Okay. Should we talk about like the elephant in the room when it comes to the cast?
You mean you want to talk about the Betty thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about Wilma and Betty here. So Elizabeth Perkins. I think she's tailor made for Wilma Flintstone, just first and foremost. I think I love how proactive she is and supportive of her husband. Like we added a great layer to Wilma here that we usually don't, where like just that she sticks up to Fred when her mother comes to town, like that we don't usually do, and the fact that she's That again, I don't mean to keep harping back on, but that nest egg scene was just so I don't even. I think it was just more the savings, but I'm going the nest egg because I yabba do. But the saving scene just like again sums up why Fred and Wilma work the whole like Alice and Ralph Cramden of it all, which by the way is what
Uh-huh.
John Goodman kind of applied to his performance. I don't know how much research he did with Fred Flintstone. If I recall, he instead of like researching Fred Flintstone, he doubled down on researching Ralph from the Honeymooners. Like
Oh, that's an
Jackie.
interesting way to approach it.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That's what I heard. I heard he didn't really necessarily rewatch the show. I'm sure he was told like how to do the bowling ball thing for sure. But outside of that, like he's mainly just looking at kind of Gleason, what kind of how Gleason did the Honeymooners. Is pretty much
Uh-huh.
how he looked at it, which obviously paid off tremendously. But yeah, so again, I think Elizabeth Purn, she doesn't get a lot here, but what she does get, I think, is really kind of strong for Wilma. When Wilma herself does not always get a lot to do. And on the flip side of that, you have Betty as well, played by Rosie O'Donnell, who people are just really harsh on, unfortunately.
I honestly think like this is if this was a casting choice that was made today, I don't think people would be up in arms about it. I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second, and I truly think the reason why the people were mad about this was because of Rosie O'Donnell's weight. And I'm like, fuck you. I like honestly, like, look, I'm not a big Rosie O'Donnell fan. Who is in 2021? You know what I mean? But I really do think that she had something here for this role. I mean, specifically that giggle. Like, I'm convinced that she got cast exclusively because of that giggle.
Well,
And she,
let me tell you what happened.
go ahead.
So yeah, Rosie O'Donnell, she loves the Flintstones, and again, she could do that laugh perfectly because she loves the Flintstones. She actually had some creative input in terms of like all the deep cut nods to the series. For example, the top of the movie when one of the great scenes, Fred and Barney are in the iconic car, which by the way looks great realized in live action. The car they're singing the Bedrock Twitch, which is a deep cut from the show.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, she said, "Hey, you got to put the Bedrock Twitch in there," and they did.
Okay, you see that right there? That right there, Dragon. That's proof that she deserved to be in this movie.
And that's what I'm saying. That's why I
All
keep
right,
trying.
I want to just put this whole thing to bed right now. I
Yeah,
really do think the reason why people were upset is that Betty Rubble is supposed to be like the sexy character of the Flintstones, and like, oh, freaking Rosie O'Donnell is a little bit more heavy set than the average woman, so
which
therefore
honestly,
it's terrible
I mean,
casting.
honestly, she looks fine. Like, what are you gonna say? Like,
I think so too,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't
and I
really,
would like to think that we as a culture have evolved past this.
yeah. But just here's the thing, though. You got to remember, again, more so Betty than Wilma, but again, especially Betty. In general, Betty always gets the short end of the stick in terms of what you can do with her, because she's very
Uh-huh.
much she's the supporting cast of the supporting cast with Wilma. At the end of the day, where she's okay. So in this movie, considering she usually gets the raw end of the stick, I love that we get to see her, kind of embrace the joys of motherhood with Bam Bam. Like, you have like some
Uh-huh.
brief but sweet moments with her, like as a mother, and she's like, again, she's living for it, man, and also adoring her husband when he's falling on hard times. I think we gave Betty some strength there, and obviously
Yeah,
she
totally.
strangles that Dicta Bird to get the answers.
Oh my god.
That's a woman who loves her husband. Just Betty Rubble again, very underrated. And I think Rosie O'Donnell cared about that character, and I think she did right by her.
And then I feel like Rick Moranis is honestly like maybe the MVP of the whole cast, in my opinion.
I mean, yes, but again, I keep embracing the duo because I think they both make that just work perfectly. But yes, Rick Moranis, absolutely,
Moranis has all the heart, man. He's got all the heart.
for sure. I mean, one of the great things in the movie is one of my favorite moments in the film. The rise and fall montage as Fred and Wilma rise, Betty and Barney kind of fall here, and we just see poor Barney Rubble. I'm rooting for him so much in this movie as he tries to make an honest living, as he's been
Mhm.
fired because basically he's been fired because he had the lowest test score, which is just the saddest thing when you think about it. Oh no, that nice gesture for Fred is
Z and
completely
K
screwed.
says better Rosie than Roseanne, and oh yeah, I can agree with that. Roseanne as Betty would be kind of a hot mess.
Which oh god, can you imagine if they
Could you
went that?
imagine
Hey,
John Goodman playing opposite Roseanne, and they're not playing the spouses?
God, it would have just
That'd
been
just be weird.
just been a train wreck. God.
Right.
But no, but seriously though, again, I mean, you're rooting for Barney as he's just kind of falling so far. And there's actually on the rewatch, I kind of forget about this. Barney has this really sad line at rock bottom after he's had his fight with Fred, and they're basically living in the outside. He says, "I've become my father."
Oh my god, dude.
It's like, yes, he's become like the unevolved caveman that his father was.
There's a
Most
couple
likely.
really memorable, pathetic Barney moments for me. One of them's really sad. One of them's really funny.
Well, okay, what do you got?
The really sad one is the busboy moment.
Yeah, I know, it's such a pain moment where he sees, and it's kind of funny though. It kind of reflects a moment from it's kind of like the dramatic version of that gag in I Yabba Dabba Doo, where Fred is working at Nordstone's,
It
and
is,
he
yeah,
has
a
like
little bit. It did
has like the
remind me of
fake.
that.
But here we have it played dramatically, where Barney kind of sees like, oh no, I have to wait on that table, and he puts on a brave face, tries to do it kind of discreetly, but he's instantly recognized by his wife, and you see like you kind of see like, oh, poor Barney.
But then the one that I think is really funny is towards the climax where he pulls up in the fucking Jetsons ice cream truck.
The snow cone truck.
Yeah. I just love that it's got the Jetsons jingle. I always loved that even as a kid.
That's what I'm saying. They're going for all the deep cuts, Tiki.
But I love the idea of him like, I'm not here to save you. I saw a crowd and thought I could sell a few snow cones.
And poor Barney just showing up, he's going to get hanged alongside of him. Well, to be fair, he does cop to, yeah, I caused all this. Well, what did you expect? Anyway, but yeah, I mean, again, dude, the bit that always kind of rung true for me nostalgically was like, oh god, as like the Flintstones get like a second layer to their house, Barney Rubble's is a living crash test dummy. As like,
Oh my god.
I love the score. I love how we kind of play like the most extravagant version of the Flintstones theme and have a yeah time. It's like, oh, poor Barney's about to crash. It's a great montage.
But we also get the da 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 da.
Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, speaking of music for a second there, when we reach the low of lows, they do my favorite thing in the Flintstones. It's been there since the show back then.
Is it the sad version of the Flintstones?
Yes, yes. They do like the keyboard version, like the keyboard version of it. Like I always want to say like theremin, but it's not theremin at all. It's like the. It's like, oh god,
totally.
So sad. I saw rewatching through them, which I'm still just like in the early stages of. I saw like the beginning of that where it was like he wronged Barney and he felt terrible. He got Barney fired once in the first season. He just felt terrible, and they're playing the music then.
Yeah.
Which oddly, speaking of which, I haven't gotten to this yet, but they
yeah, that's a weird transition.
Yeah, so apparently, when they were crafting the story for the movie, they reversed one of the plots from the original show, where originally Barney got the promotion and Fred did not. So they swapped it here. I feel it was a good call because I think it plays a lot better with Fred than it would with Barney.
Because I feel like Barney would stay humble, whereas Fred does not. Clearly.
Of course, Fred's always going to get snowblind by the sparkly lights of ambition. So perhaps we should talk about what do you got?
No, go ahead.
Perhaps we should talk about Cliff Vander Cave and Miss Stone.
Okay, yeah. First of all, just very, very young and attractive Holly Berry. I'll give her that much. She is looking good in this movie.
I mean, she's rocking the leopard prints.
Yeah. By the way, I just love that's honestly one of my all-time favorite fucking Flintstones puns in anything is just Sharon Stone.
You can probably guess this, Tiki, but Holly Berry, shocker, was not their first. It was not their first choice. No, seriously, they wanted
to just get Sharon Stone.
Yeah, seriously, they went after Sharon Stone.
The
pun. Yes, just for the pun. They went after Sharon Stone, and there was a scheduling. She wanted to do it, but there was a scheduling.
Oh man.
I don't know if that's what you just said to be polite or what. I don't know.
So I will say I'm very much on Sharon Stone's side in this plot. I think Halle Berry is a lot more likable than McLaughlin is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, for two things. So one, just with the Miss Stone of all here. Obviously, very embarrassing reminder that they couldn't get Sharon Stone just in every way, shape, or form. That's unavoidable. But
I honestly think it's funnier that it's not Sharon Stone.
Yeah, it would have been really dated if they actually just did Sharon Stone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like if you get the joke, you get the joke. If not, then it's like, oh, Stone reference. All right.
So I really like how this might sound corny, but you know what? I like how she was won over by Fred Flintstone's charm and his sweetness. Like when he's, I hope I didn't get you in trouble with your wife. Oh, Wilma always forgives me. She's the best.
Yeah, I do
Sometimes
too. I do too. I
that's
thought she had a really nice, subtle arc in the movie, especially rewatching it.
yeah. Now Kyle MacLachlan, I love Kyle MacLachlan as an actor. I mean, I thought he
He's one
was
of my favorite Desperate Housewives characters.
he's Tiki. I keep telling you this. He was so good in season 2 of Agents of Shield. He was like the big bad. He was like the big bad
Oh
guy
yeah.
that season. He was really good. Anyways, McLaughlin. I do love me some McLaughlin. Look, let me put it this way. I think you'll find when we cover perhaps if we cover the prequel. This guy far better villain. If you're gonna have Flintstones are not really cut for villains. There aren't really Flintstones is
No,
not a villain
it's really
property.
not. Yeah, that's a good point. Like Flintstones do not have a very memorable rogues
I mean,
gallery,
the
if
only
you
rogues
will.
gallery we really have is the Green Goose, and that doesn't really even count because that was like
Right,
a
right.
one-off spy parody. And
Uh,
so that's what I'm saying. So Flintstones are not really tailor-made to have villains, period. So the fact that sometimes you have just like a generic robber occasionally. So there's a burglar in the neighborhood. That's about as far as you get with villains in the Flintstones. So, I mean, as far as a villain goes, I mean, compared to what we do in the next one, it's good, but and I don't necessarily mind him as a corporate entity, but the fact that he has like this big Machiavellian plot for embezzling
I
everything and has to have a
honestly
fall
think
guy.
it would
That's
be better if he didn't have the Machiavellian plot. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
that's what I'm saying. Like if
Like
he
if
was
he was
just
just like a corporate guy who wanted Fred to help him with the bottom line, which
Mhm.
meant firing people.
Yeah,
And yeah, I like the Machiavellian thing. A, I just feel like it's overly complicated for
yeah.
one, and B, I just feel like it kind of like we've already kind of established. It sort of like
Embezzlement, that's
railroads
what
the
the
whole
kids like.
movie.
Yeah, embezzlement's what the kids are all about today.
Exactly. I mean, I remember even as a kid, I was like, okay, whenever I'd watch this movie as a kid, after Fred's promotion, I would get a little bit bored.
Did it have anything to do with he's not wearing the orange outfit anymore?
Honestly, kind of, maybe. But
Seriously,
no, but seriously, it is just like kind of like that first act is just so classic Flintstones. You get the opening scene, you get the bowling alley, you get the Bam Bam origin, and then once it switches gears, I just feel like the whole thing becomes a little bit too mean spirited for its own good.
yep.
Z
Um,
and K, I like this comment from Z and K. It says Sharon's arc is sort of like mirages from The Incredibles.
that's fair.
I could sign off on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll co-sign that. Yep. I mean, again, I think he plays like the sleazy corporate entity, well. It's just again the plot doesn't support it. I just feel like Tom McGowan's not a bad choice for that role, but do we need that role in this movie? That's kind of the
Exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like it's like as like again like the as
Or
like
at the
the
very least, I feel like they could have given Mr. Slate more screen time to kind of like even out like Mr. Slate being the example of like a good, business person.
yes, and unfortunately, that's again because of all these writers. We're not just sticking to like a straight story. We're changing things constantly. And the problem, if there's any room for Mister Slade, it was surely we cut him down to 2 scenes in the
I
movie.
know, I know. Like I was honestly starting to wonder if he was even in this.
I am glad that they actually did give him a kind of a running gag that was kind of funny though in the 2 scenes where he keeps getting Flintstone's name wrong, like Flagstone, until he does the iconic
Uh-huh.
Flintstone. Now he
Yeah.
gets my name right. That wasn't bad. That's pretty fun. Let's see. Okay, so let's talk about the Dictabird.
The what now? I'm sorry.
The Dictabird, like the intercom system, like Harvey
Oh
Korman, the
yes. Oh my
bird.
god. This guy's a hoot. One of the most nostalgic elements of the movie for me.
Of course, the great Harvey Korman, that of course of Star Wars Holiday Special fame,
Uh-huh.
but Carol,
When I was a kid, it was almost impossible to differentiate this character from Zazu. He reminds me so much of Zazu.
yeah, Harvey Korman, he's been a lot. He's almost like a Lucky Charm with all the Flintstones properties. I'm not gonna say he's been in everything. Like I'm pretty sure there's some holes in the things we've talked about already, but Harvey Korman pops up a lot through the Flintstones, so they kind of worked him in as as a nod.
Uh-huh.
And I believe he's physically in Viva Rock Vegas, so they love Korman. Anyway,
Nice.
yes. So I love that I love that both he and the garbage disposal have an arc in the movie.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Like the garbage disposal, I'm itching to talk about, but
So
let's talk through him first.
I just love the idea and the payoff of the running gags in the Flintstones world buildings. The fact that we always have like the gag, okay, look at the camera, they say something kind of clever, and then like that you think you got a crap job or something like that. They're gonna steal. They'll say something.
Right. Right.
They'll have like, oh, I need better health care. I need dental plan. I need something.
Lisa needs braces. Dental plan.
Yes,
Lisa needs braces. Dental plan.
all right.
Sorry. Sorry.
So the fact that we've just taken like one of the most iconic running gags of the Flintstones, and we again, yet what the movie has been doing right for a lot of it, we've been giving it a few layers. Like, okay, what if we address it? Yeah, like the bird in like the recorder bird in the Man Called Flintstone.
Right. Right.
Where it's it's going to actually help save the day. It's like again one of it's like the very rare times the appliance is going to actually be able to do something or have like a payoff or have like an opinion
And I
about
feel like
something.
this is like a good sort of like one up of that instance where it's like
Yes.
he's a full on character.
And I love that he has like a thing where he's trying to advise Fred, even though he doesn't respect him, and he's like, they don't respect each other. Like, if I'm going to ask the office equipment, I'll ask the water cooler. He hurt his feelings, and he wants an apology and everything. And honestly, the bird it's kind of this MacGuffin, but also a symbol of the film. I know how odd that sounds, but just bear with me. Just the fact that again, it's the symbol of what the Flintstones is all about, and it's the key to undoing the plot of the movie. And also to re-humble Fred, who's kind of lost his way. And this is the guy calling out, "Hey, read those documents before you sign them, you moron."
Right, right.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. So then so Fred Flintstone becomes a fugitive for a part of the movie, and he ticked off the wrong appliance earlier in the film.
Yeah, the garbage disposal just calling out Fred is one of the most memorable scenes in the whole
Flintstone.
movie for me.
Just love the fact.
I really do think it's just kind of like the vocal delivery of that squeal.
That's the director, by the way.
Is it?
Yes, I'm pretty sure the director does the garbage disposal's voice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's honestly like super menacing, you know.
It is. It has like that kind of that metallic croak to it or something. Like
right.
Just the fact that he's calling him out, like no none. I love the fact that none of them are going to see the beard except for the Pegasaurus disposal. Like none of these Neanderthals are gonna be able to.
Now that's another thing I want to point out about the look of this movie is that I feel like the one thing that they kind of like sort of play around with, that isn't necessarily in the cartoon, and tell me if you have the same thing, is like I don't know, I feel like there's like kind of like various, it's almost like a class system of different, like how advanced the Neanderthals are.
Yeah.
Did you get that? Because it's like we have like the way more obvious like cavemen, who have like who are kind of like more grungy with the long hair. We've got straight up primates running around in this world.
Yeah, for sure, Tig. You're right, but I think also they kind of talked it up in my takeaway. I always think about when they talked it up in dialogue when Pearl Slaghoople, played by Elizabeth Taylor, when she chews out Fred, like she calls him a Neanderthal and everything, and like that's when we kind of mention the Neanderthals as if they're still like an existing class or like they're like the lowest tier of.
Yeah, but I think that's like it's like one of the elements of this movie that does not stick like to. Just kind of like being a beat by beat adaptation of the cartoon, but I like it as like kind of like it kind of builds on the world building a little bit.
For sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, so a few cameos that were in the movie. So I think Levant just kind of, I don't know if Levant worked on Night Court personally or what, given a sitcom background, but Richard Mall is in this movie. He's also in Jingle All the Way, which Levant also directed, by the way.
Uh-huh.
So I love that Richard Mall. He plays like the lead, the tall caveman from the bowling alley.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The guy who says, "Hope it's not another poem." That guy. That's Two-Face from Batman the Animated Series.
Oh, okay, nice.
So that's Richard Mall, who also plays the real Demental from Jingle All the Way. Ta-ta, Turbo Man, the real guy. That's Richard Mall.
God, yeah.
Anyway, so also the great Jonathan Winters in this. That was just delightful to see him.
Uh-huh.
All right. And a few Jay Leno's, but who cares? All right.
All right.
Anywho, let's see. So let's. I know we got to talk about. You want to talk about the negatives before we talk about the third act?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So let's see. Obviously, we're not feeling the embezzlement plot. Clearly. Let's see. I'll tell you what the worst part of the movie is. The pterodactyl joke in the park.
Oh, you know what's funny about that? I'm glad you bring that up. Dragon, I must have blocked that out of my memory because I swear to God, I don't remember that.
See, I always, let me tell you why this will never leave my memory. Okay, let me tell you why. See, I try to block that scene out,
I
but I
swear to
can't.
God, when it came up, it was like one of the few moments in the movie where I was like, "Oh God, if I would have remembered that as a kid, I would have hated it as a kid,
Yeah.
but I don't remember it."
There are two scenes in this movie that kind of like are really make me really uneasy. Okay, like as a kid, maybe like really uneasy. Like, oh man, they played. I think the tone's just really wrong in these two bits. You have one. It's not the fact that we're doing like a. It's like there's a lot of terrifying buildup around the pterodactyl thing. Like the giant pterodactyl swooping down. Like, oh god, and they're all freaking out. It's like, oh god,
I literally thought it was going to be like a giant pterodactyl attack.
Yes, and then it's a poo joke. And it's like it's like the cardinal rule of like Scooby Doo almost, where animated dogs don't do the thing. They don't do that.
Amen, brother. Amen to
So
that.
it's a similar logic here, where there's some the animated animals don't use the bathroom.
Yeah.
At the very least, they don't do it just non-subtly. Like I like to go into the tome of Seth MacFarlane on this one. Seth MacFarlane had this great analogy as a kid where he has this great recollection as a kid where he assumed that Fred and Barney went to the bathroom during the commercial breaks.
That's funny.
That's what I'm saying. I always thought that was so charming. Anyway, so the other scene, I don't know if this bugs you too. We contrive a reason for the Rubbles to be on their last dime, which I think already just the fact the adoption should have been enough, but the crystal, like the bull in the china shop moment, where
I don't know. I don't mind that too much just because it gives Bam Bam a distinct thing to do, but
it does. It just feels a little reductive. Where it's like overall, I think Bam Bam kind of like he should have been one of the main stories of the film, and we kind of shafted after the origin.
They really do. Yeah, I did notice that. Like because I obviously as a kid I remember there being a lot of Bam Bam because of that first act. But yeah, I mean. It kind of feels like after that one montage, he just kind of slips into the background for most of the movie.
I mean, that's the thing, T. I think that the crystal moment where it shatters all like the Nordstones, let's call it, just for convenience's sake. When he trashes the Nordstones, he's pretty much written out of the movie until like the Dada moment in the third act. It's about it.
You called me Dada.
Yeah. So unfortunately,
By the way, can we talk about how much that third act rips off the Brave Little Toaster?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. I'm sorry. Since you brought it up, real quick, this is kind of a brief aside. I was looking for it recently, and it's funny. What? The Brave Little Toaster is not on Disney Plus, but do you know what is on Disney Plus?
Yes, I know this. The Brave Little Toaster Goes to Mars. I know this.
And not and the rescue.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I know this.
Anyway, all right. Okay, sorry, getting back. Put a pin in the third act, and we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Just yeah, it just feels like we just kind of wrote them out. But the way we frame that scene though always kind of rubbed me the wrong way as a kid because it's just like they're doing like the really dramatic slow mo, like no, as he's smashing and stuff. Like guys, this is like just comedy gold. Okay, the kids smash the china and everything. He's like, really? We're gonna treat like this kid, this freshly adopted kid, as bankrupted his new parents.
Right.
It's kind of I don't know if I like that.
I mean, I feel like there are a few moments in this movie where it is like weirdly mean spirited.
Yeah, that's
that
what
is
I'm
one
saying.
of those moments. Yeah,
it's like really you're gonna hold her responsible for that? I mean, honestly, she could very well just sick the kid on you if she really wanted to.
Right.
It's like I don't know. It's always felt like kind of a wrong move to me. Let's see. Wilma's a little out of character when the Flintstones become snobs.
I agree. Because
there's a moment
she falls into it a little too quickly.
I love Elizabeth Perkins in the role of Wilma, but that scene when they're in the busboy scene, I do love John Goodman how he's playing it though. He's playing it just how Fred would when it would go off the reservation, get a little get really blustery, and just kind of get really become an egomaniac. It's like,
Mm.
Barney, you're a busboy. And the whole, I think one of the hilarious things, like, get me a clean spoon.
Oh God.
But no, like during that scene though, Wilma, she's completely like being all huffy towards towards Barney and everything when they're kind of making accusations against Fred. Which, by the way, to the credit, Fred in that scene, I love how he maintains the innocence really well before he then puts his foot in his mouth with like just being all snooty, where he's just like, "I didn't do that." So you fired everyone at the quarry. I didn't do that. You absolutely believe this guy had nothing to do with that, and you're on his side until he then insults Barney. Who are you gonna believe, me or this busboy? Yeah.
All right. Greg,
Okay,
we're an hour in, so I feel like I don't want to go too much longer after this.
Okay,
but...
let's just talk about the third act. So the third act feels very. I got less Brave Little Toaster. What I got more so is this is like
literally the only reason I say Brave Little Toaster is it takes place in kind of like a junkyard setting, and there's sort of like a dangerous conveyor belt involved.
Yeah. I mean, sure. I mean, honestly, I here's the weird thing, Tiki. I like the third act, but I will admit it's until like we literally end the movie, just the climax of it all. I'm not sure it gels with the Flintstones, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it felt like if you're gonna give the Flintstones something cinematic, I mean, I don't mind that. I mean, that's cool. And honestly, the weird thing is that it feels very much in the DNA of like the signature action climax in Brian Levant's movies. It feels very Jingle All the Way to me. It's like, okay, the kids in peril,
totally.
We gotta save, but I like that climax though, so I don't mind it. Anyway, so the big thing with the third act I really loved is the payoff. You know me, I love a good model. So I love that we paid off the model, that Fred broke the model. He's going to do it again on the big one.
Yes.
And I mean, look, to the movie's credit, again, we don't need any of this, but the embezzlement plot as it stands, as an embezzlement plot, the whole he's going to pitch this machine, in terms of the practicality of the thing, like you build this machine that's supposed to put all the guys in the quarry out of work and provide housing, and he's just going to take the money and run. That makes sense. So that I buy, and that's why this thing easily goes off the rails, and it's a hazard. We need something to put the kids in peril. It's really all it is. So that's I like practically how it works as a third act set piece. I mean, that's as far as I'll go with in terms of liking the embezzlement plot. Sure. But I got to tell you, I love with Fred and Barney's kids in peril. I love how ticked off Fred Flintstone is at this guy. Like he breaks that ransom note, and he bowls this guy over, and basically, as Z and K channel brought up earlier, concrete, heck of a way to go.
I also love that. I think I completely forgot about that little detail that Fred invents concrete.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. I love that he actually has it's the fact that I think one of the most beautiful moments second to the whole, like, the adoption, the whole Fred giving Barney the money for the adoption thing. Second to that is that the way we end this movie, where Fred gets everything he ever wanted, he actually earned the promotion. Like, Barney's like, no, don't listen to him. It's like, Fred, you actually earned it this time. And Fred Flintstone says this thing that's so wonderfully in character, and why I think we love the character. The fact that he chooses to go back to the sitcom status quo. The fact that he says, well, Barney, I was somebody, but then I found out I was somebody I didn't like. That just perfectly sums it up. Like, yes, that's why Fred Flintstone can't change. That's why he's got to be who he is. It's the comforting return to status quo, albeit though he did get the vacation time and the health plan for the quarry guys. But most importantly,
that is what I like to call a nice compromise.
And most importantly, though,
the little ketchup pack.
The little packets of ketchup. Yes.
Yes.
He got everything they really wanted at the end of the day. And then Mr. Slate saying that's the best executive I ever had. And of course, we end the only way we can end on Wilma. Wilma! That's perfect.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, final thoughts, folks. I think we pretty much sum it up well. I honestly think everything outside of the embezzlement plot is pretty much perfect. And then even a couple things within the embezzlement plot work fine. It's just a weird direction for Flintstones to go in. But I mean, like, obviously we could talk till we're blue in the face about how good the production design is, how well cast everyone is. I truly think this is like if there's a an adaptation of a cartoon in live action that's better than this, I'm truly drawing a blank on it.
Yeah, I mean, think because every time we run into this sort of thing, there's always like a litany of holes. I mean, in this case, just one big hole, but outside of it, everything else kind of holds up. It's like almost like kind of like a bowling ball effect. You use the analogy for the Flintstones here. It's like there are a few holes, but it's not like Swiss cheese, like most cartoon to live action adaptations we run across.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the Z and K channel here is throwing us some Monsters Unleashed, George of the Jungle, Fat Albert.
George of the Jungle is solid. I'll give you that. George of the Jungle is solid.
Yeah, I love the Brent Fraser George.
I have not seen Fat Albert.
Tiki, I know obviously now a lot more controversial than it was in the past, but seriously though, Tiki, the Fat Albert adaptation was really good.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, to be Monsters Unleashed, not so much though. I mean, it's better than the first Scooby Doo, but it's. But yeah, those are some good ones too. I mean, I don't know in terms of adaptation. I mean, in terms of like literally, this is pretty close to off the TV though. This is pretty pretty dead on though. But then again, Fat Albert is literally out of the TV, so it's kind of hard to.
As is Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah, Rocky and Bullwinkle is a fun one. But that one, it's certainly a little.
Flawed. That one's got its own unique set of problems.
That's the thing. There's just unfortunately there's like always going to be. We haven't reached an anime adaptation that's completely without flaws because again, how it's always going to be that thing of how can you take something you can do anything in cartoons, but you can't necessarily do everything in live action. If you do so, it's going to be overly CG'd or different, or it's like, well, those guys look completely different. That doesn't sound like for example, Dino, who was great in this movie, by the way, very faithfully represented as a Henson puppet and some early CG. Dino, archival Mel Blanc footage. So Mel Blanc is in this movie, which is kind of nice.
Jay Ward month. I mean, is there even like?
Well, no, there's Dudley Do Right.
There's Dudley Do Right and Rocky and Bullwinkle. Is there any beyond that?
I don't even know if there's like animated full length features of those Tiki. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think there's only 2.
I mean, I love Peabody and Sherman.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, it was 3 then.
Yeah.
I don't know. We could crack at a 4th. I mean, I don't know.
Potentially.
All right, let's not promise anything, but who knows? It's a good idea. Also, did you shout out John Kelling's comment?
No, I did not. Thank you. John Kelling says this movie was the weirdest Twin Peaks tie-in, and that's saying something. Also, he said Fat Albert's a good movie, really hard to watch now.
Unfortunately, because it really is a good movie. Seriously, no one ever used the Fat Albert movie. Seriously, the end of the Fat Albert.
Oh, and George of the Jungle, of course. George in the Jungle is Jay Ward.
I won't spoil it for you, Tiki. The end of Fat Albert quite emotional.
So yeah, I mean, thinking out loud, like I don't want to promise it like right away. It's like, because obviously next month is going to be Christmas stuff. I don't want to promise it right away as like the next thing we do after Christmas, but it's got potential.
Completely forgot George of the Jungle was Jay Ward. That's a really good observation.
George of the Jungle, Peabody and Sherman, Rocky and Bullwinkle, Dudley Do Right. Like, yeah, that's a solid lineup.
That is a very fair point. Plus, Alfred Molina is in Dudley Do Right.
He is. Dudley Do Right is the one I have not seen. So
yeah, I've seen it, but let me put it this way: I don't rewatch it for reasons.
Oh God, yeah, I'm not expecting great. I mean, I don't even really like the Dudley Do Right cartoon all that much.
That's what I'm saying. There's not a whole lot there. I mean,
yeah, I think the best Dudley Do Right anything is the ride. Let's be honest.
Right.
And even then, the fucking ride vehicles suck because it's like, who puts restraints on a log flume? But all right, I digress.
Okay, regardless, the live-action Flintstones, such a nostalgic treat for the soul. I mean, again, especially when we're reminiscing.
Lena is Snidely Whiplash? Oh, I've got to see that now.
Yes, you didn't? Oh, yeah, that's what I meant by he's in the movie, yeah.
Oh, my God. I mean, that's awesome.
And anyways, we give him a mustache. Anywho. So yeah, I of course just so much nostalgic love for this movie. We glow about it all day if we wanted to go over all the minutia, but again, covering the highlights and just kind of what works about it. Again, like I love pathos applied to the Flintstones. So this movie has like the magic trick of like this is what it would look like in real life. It's fun.
Right. Well, just once again, thanking Z and K and John Kelling for being here tonight. You guys both rock. Really appreciate it. All right, folks, when the credits roll, that's our cue to run home and put the saber-toothed tiger out unsuccessfully. Until we meet again for the next mammoth marquee feature, have a yabba-dabba-doo time.
Wilma! He called me Dada.
He called me